now joined by a national championship Hall of Fame coach, the legend in Tom Osborne. Coach, thank you so much for being on Sikkim 365 Radio. What does tomorrow, the anniversary, and just Nebraska and Oklahoma playing mean?
Well, I think for older folks, it brings back a lot of memories. For most younger people, probably not so much. But there was a stretch there of, I think, about 30 years where the winner of the Nebraska-Oklahoma game either won or tied for the Big 8 Conference Championship. And I'd say probably in the majority of those cases that might have had some national championship ramifications. And so it was usually a game for all the marbles as far as we were concerned. And at that time, the Big 8 Conference was very strong. Matter of fact, in 1971, which was, as you know, 50 years ago, I think we were rated number 1 at the end of the season, Oklahoma 2, and Colorado 3. And anyway, long-standing tradition. I think also the thing about the game that was rather unique, even though it was very intense and a very strong rivalry, there wasn't a nastiness about it that sometimes those kinds of games engender, because seemed to be a good deal of healthy respect on the part of the coaches, the players, and the fan bases of both teams. I can't remember a single really ugly incident in any of those games. And so a lot of good memories, and of course a lot of disappointing memories too, because they were always hard fought and close games.
The 1971 game, and I'm old enough, I'm 62. I remember that's kind of the core of my childhood, and I remember, the Thanksgiving and all the stuff that when you guys played. The Rodgers punt return gets a lot of attention. That was the first score of the game. Jeff Kinney and Jerry Taggy and Rich Glover. What do you remember most? It was two great teams, and that thing could have flipped just like many Oklahoma and Nebraska games. What do you remember most about that?
Well, probably certainly the Johnny Rodgers punt return was important, and probably the final drive that Nebraska had. We were trailing by 3 or 4 points in the game, and had, I think, 4.5 minutes or something like that to go down and score. And we did it mostly on the ground. We had, I think there was 1 3rd and 8 where we were in a little bit of trouble, and Jerry Taggy eluded a tackler and threw a ball. It was kind of a low ball. Johnny Rodgers made a diving catch and got a first down. And then Jeff Kinney made a couple nice runs and finally a 2-yard run and scored. And I think there was still about 1.5 minutes, something like that, left in the game. And they had a long pass that was maybe slightly open, but was overthrown. And then we sacked the quarterback, and that was Larry Jacobson. Put a lot of pressure on Mildren. And then I think Rich Glover went in and knocked the ball down, and we got the ball back and maybe had a couple of kneel downs, and that was the game. But it did go right down to the wire. And the thing about it was kind of different, was that you'd think that running the wishbone that Oklahoma would be the dominant rushing team, and we would probably be more of a passing team because we ran the traditional spread set, I formation. It was just the other way around. We ran the ball a great deal that day and had the edge in rushing yards, and they had some big passes from Jack Mildren, and we had revamped our secondary to try to stop the wishbone, and it kind of backfired on us. And so anyway, a lot of different nuances to that game.
Does it disappoint you, obviously, when the Big 12 was formed and they went divisions, Nebraska in the north, and at the time you guys were coming off the national championships and won another one and almost won 1 or 2 or 3 more. But when that rivalry was not going to be every year like an automatic crossover game, how much did that bother you?
Well, it was disappointing because that had always been a key game for Nebraska, usually toward the end of the year. And then when the Big 12 was formed, rather than playing a crossover with they were in the South Division, we were in the North Division, and then the Big Ten, many other schools, you didn't necessarily just play a division schedule. You played your rival every year, and but they didn't go that way, and so they stayed in the South Division, which meant that we played them 2 years out of every 4, and but it was never quite the same because you don't play somebody every year. It doesn't become quite the rivalry that it once was.
Is for someone, and again, I've told you where I was at that time. I mean, I was probably at the time in junior high when you guys played, and I lived the great rivalry. You were not only lived it, you were a part of it as an assistant coach, offensive coordinator, head coach, and AD. Are we losing those long-time great rivalries? We've already lost some, Texas and A&M and others, you and Oklahoma, because of how football is expanding into almost like a mini NFL?
Mm-hmm. Well, it does seem that there has been somewhat of a movement to emphasize finances, number of television sets that you're reaching, and many of the economic issues that have kind of done away with a lot of the tradition, some of the pageantry of college athletics, and I think even the NIL thing probably affects some fans. And it's in a way it's good that players are reaping some of the rewards of their name, image, and likeness. But on the other hand, you've turned it into a little bit of a semi-professional league. And so I would say that the emphasis on finances has certainly changed the nature of the game, and maybe not necessarily for the better.
Coach, and I know you got to go, and thanks for your time always. Is there one of the wins when you were the head coach at Nebraska against Oklahoma that meant more than any others? I know there was that stretch in the 70s after you guys won the 2 national titles, and it was so close. My God, it was always a play. Even some that you won was just a play. The 71 game was a play. Is there one in particular that stands out to you?
Well, maybe the game in 1978, because we had lost to them after the 71 game. We lost 6 in a row. One when Bob Devaney was the head coach, and then unfortunately for me, 5 times. And we did have a couple of close games that looked like maybe we had one, and all of a sudden, they toward the end they'd have one play that would score, something would happen, and they'd win. And so in 78, they came in, I think, ranked number 1, and we managed to knock the ball loose at the 3-yard line and hang on to it for the last 4 minutes and win the game. I think 17-14, and that was a very memorable game. We actually we went ahead, kicked off to them, and one of our kickoff coverage people knocked the ball loose from Kelly Phelps, and we fell on it, I think, about the 10 or 15-yard line, their 10 or 15, and looked like the game was over. But the official, for some reason, did not see the ball come out or whatever, and went down the field, and Billy said, fumbled it, and another heartbreaker for us. But anyway, that one was important because after that we began to win our share, and then toward the end more than our share. But they were really hard to beat in the 70s. They had the Selman brothers, Joe Washington, some great players, and really some magnificent football teams.
How important would it be for Scott Frost if they can play well tomorrow? I know they're heavy underdogs, but how important is it for him to have something happen good right now to the program?
Well, I think it would certainly be a major factor for Nebraska season. We have a very tough schedule. We're currently, I think we're going to play something like 4 or 5 teams that are ranked either in the top 10 or close to it. We've got Ohio State. We currently, I think Iowa is ranked pretty high, and we're playing Oklahoma, and then Wisconsin's going to be tough, and so it's a really difficult schedule, and so I think we have a good team, and it'd be important that we score some points. Our defense is sound, and so it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. Obviously, be the most challenging game that we've played to date so far this season, and it may be the same way for Oklahoma. Maybe the best opponent they face. So, I guess we'll just have to see what happens. That's the way you play the game.
Coach, you've given me some incredible memories in my lifetime as a Nebraska fan, and you've also been generous to give me time as an interview again. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend. Enjoy it.
You bet.